Yes, and what is happening is that we're seeing more and more resistance coming from the Palestinian factions towards these operations by the IDF. Again, taking place practically every night. When do they come to the headlines? When the forces come in and counter resistance. Many times a fire opened upon them, and then it leads to casualties on the other side. This is the case this time. Constant operations by the IDF to capture Palestinians wanted for investigation. These are things constantly happening, and yes, over the past few months we've seen more and more of these incidents ending with a fire, with Palestinians killed, sometimes with soldiers injured. These are ongoing incidents.
I think important to highlight here, these are instances of conflict, gunfire, and killings, but not with the Palestinian Authority security forces. We've seen Defense Minister Benny Gantz host Palestinian President Abbas at his home, and was just in Amman as well meeting. So we know there's a lot of coordination on that side. But so are these the Islamic Jihad, Hamas, is that what we're led to believe, are the armed groups that are resisting right now?
Yes, and as you mentioned yourself, the Palestinian Authority is not very fast at entering those places. We've seen plenty of images over the past few months of riots and shots being fired at Palestinian Authority forces trying to conduct a similar raid. So the Palestinian Authority many times refraining from that. Let's be very clear about it. For the PA, it is very convenient that those people belonging to Hamas, belonging to the Islamic Jihad, the other factions, they're very happy that they're caught, that they're sitting in jail and not out in the street. But it's also convenient for them that it's Israeli army dealing with these instances and not their own forces.
Now, what's the general atmosphere across the West Bank? If you can characterize it right now, there's been a series of high-tension incidents, killings, attacks. What seems to be the current status of affairs?
Especially in the northern West Bank, it's a very tense situation. The Palestinian Authority does not entirely control, especially the area of Jenin, also areas around Nablus. This has been going for quite some time. It's not something new. The factions there, especially if we speak of Jenin in the northern West Bank, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, very strong there, and Hamas has been having a certain level of success in bringing tension up all along the West Bank. Very inconvenient for Israel, inconvenient also for the Palestinian Authority.
And on top of that now, and connected to the Islamic Jihad, this hunger striker who 140 days plus was hunger striking, now set to be released next month. We understand this featured largely on the Palestinian streets, certainly in the circles of the jihad, perhaps lending even just more impetus to the tensions, to more attacks to come?
Yes, and we're already seeing the effect of that, because there are other prisoners who are perhaps on a hunger strike or in some kind of a medical condition, and the factions understood that this is a way to put pressure on Israel, on the prisoners' affairs. The prisoners is one of the only things that is able to unite the entire Palestinian the entire Palestinian society. We know that there are great divisions between the Palestinian Authority, Hamas, and the Islamic Jihad, except in the issue of the prisoners. That brings all of the factions together, and the fact that they're able to put pressure on Israel, and we saw that it bears fruits as far as the Palestinians, certainly gives them appetite to keep on using that tool.